Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher, and this is the new flagship amplifier from Hughes Kettner, the Triamp Mk3. It's an amazingly versatile amplifier, offers up to 150 watts of power, but it's also usable for a studio or even a bedroom practice amp. I'm joined today by Carr, who's going to be doing some playing examples for us. We're going to take a little tour of the amplifier. What we have here are 6 different amplifiers, 6 different preamp voices, and we can combine those with 3 different sets of power tubes. You can switch among all those different combinations. You can set up different variations, switch between them using the foot switch. You can use it in stomp box mode. You can use MIDI presets, all kinds of different things you can do with this amp. So the way the amp is set up is the way that it comes out of the box. It's got a pair of EL34 power tubes here on the far left, and the next 2 sets of tubes are 6L6s. You can actually put any combination of octal power tubes that you want in there. Any pair of power tubes will work. You could have 6L6s, EL34s, KT66s, KT77s, KT88s, 5881s, lots of different options there. Then using these 3 switches on the front panel, you can select which power tubes are active. When you have 1 pair of power tubes active, you get 50 watts of power. 2 pairs of power tubes give you 100 watts of power. 3 pairs gives you 150 watts of power. You do have an overall master volume control, and the amp's tone holds together even at very low volume levels. Let's begin our tour by listening to the 6 different preamp voicings. Now we've assigned each one of these preamp voicings to a particular set of power tubes to bring out the best in its particular tone. Now one other thing I want to mention before we get started here is this amp does look intimidating. There's a ton of different knobs and switches on the front of it, but really when you're working with a particular channel, you only have to deal with 1 set of knobs. So we've got 5 knobs for each channel: gain control, bass, mid, treble, and master. Then there is also a master section over here with a resonance control, presence control, and an overall master volume. So we'll begin with channel 1A. That's the channel over here, and it's voiced like a 50s American amplifier, a clean style amplifier. So what I've done is pair that with 6L6 power tubes to give you the effect that you get with one of those amplifiers. So let me call this up for us here, channel 1, and we have now switched to the second set of power tubes, which brings up a set of 6L6s in the middle. Don, play a little bit for us. You can hear that has all the twang and sparkle you'd expect from a clean 50s style American amplifier. You could of course add more hair by turning the gain up. We also have a preamp boost that we'll look at in just a second here. Turning up the master will drive the power tubes a little harder, so you can start to get that breakup that you'd expect from an American amplifier as well. The second channel of amp 1 is this bottom set of controls down here, and that brings up a 60s style British amplifier, a very sparkling, chiming kind of a British amplifier. So we'll switch over to our second preset here, which brings up this channel running through a pair of EL34s here on the far left. Don, give us a little bit of that. It's really amazing how the tone changes there. The character is totally different than what we heard with the 50s American style amplifier. With this amplifier, the mid-range is very different. We have a chiming top end, more compressed kind of sound when he hits those chords hard. You can hear it really pop and really punch the way you'd expect with an authentic 60s British amplifier. Now we'll move on to amplifier 2, and this is going to bring us to a higher gain, late 60s, early 70s style British amplifier. So I'll switch over to my next preset. Again, we're going to be using EL34s. This brings up this set of controls right here. Don? So you can hear our character has changed once again completely. It now sounds more like a late 60s, early 70s style British amplifier. Not a high gain amplifier by any means, but it still has a nice breakup, great sustain. You switch to the neck pickup, it's really going to sing for you. Moving on to channel 2B, this brings us to that brown sound sort of amplifier. Again, we've got a British amplifier, but in many cases, the players who were using these in the 80s were modding them for a bit more gain and a bit different tonal response. So let me switch over to that. We'll call up the preset. Once again, we're using the EL34s. Nice. You can hear all that sustain, a bit more gain coming out of it. We've got a little bit chunkier bottom end, a nice sparkling top end to it as well with really great articulation. Moving on to amplifier 3, we've got a higher gain 90s style. It's actually sort of voiced like the duotone from Hughes Kettner. Let's listen to that. We'll switch over. Now this particular one is also using EL34s. Lots of gain there, lots of bottom end. It's a really tight chunking sound when he mutes those lower strings, but it's still as articulate, very vocal, very liquid when he's playing leads. The final amplifier voicing in the Triamp Mk3 is channel 3B. Now this is a high gain, lots of bottom end, lots of top end, sort of scoop mid-range. This is a very modern amplifier tone. We'll switch over to this one, and this is actually going to use the 6L6 power tubes. That's got all that tight bottom end you'd expect. It's really, in this room, it's actually compressing the room. Even though the volume isn't that loud, it's really thumping your chest with bottom end. As Don was demonstrating that channel, we're also using another feature of the Triamp Mk3, and that's the built-in noise gate. Now there's a very effective noise gate. It has a control on the back that goes from soft to hard. You can sort of turn that to dial in what works best with your particular style and with your guitar. The soft setting works well with single coils. As you move to humbuckers, higher gain pickups, you want to turn it more toward the hard setting, but you can find that sweet spot for it where it's not cutting off your tone. Now you can assign that noise gate using a switch on the front panel, and that can be stored with the presets as well. Now let's listen to what happens when we change the power tube combination that's being used with a particular amplifier. It really does affect the flavor that you're getting. So we'll go back to our clean tone. I'm actually going to set it up for the 60s British amplifier, and we originally demonstrated that using the EL34s. Don, play for us. Right, that's that compressed tone with that chiming top end. Now I'm going to switch over to the pair of 6L6s. You'll hear that the character of the sound changes. So you can hear our character really change there. The mid-range is very different between the 6L6 and the EL34. You don't get that chiming top end out of it, but you do get a rounder bottom end and a little bit fizzier top end as well. Now the other cool thing you can do with the Triamp Mk3 is you can actually combine those different kinds of tubes. So if I move to my next preset here, you'll see that two lights have come on. And I've now got the EL34s on the far left and the 6L6s on the far right are active. It's a 100-watt amplifier at this point, but we're getting a combination of those two tube types together. I personally really love the sound of those two tube types combined together. You get the chime from the EL34s, you get that presence out of them, yet you get that round bottom end and that nice sparkling top end from the 6L6s. The two of them combined together is a great, very balanced tone. Now we can also bring up all three sets of tubes. If you had three different types of tubes in there, they'd all be combined together. In this case, we'll have 4 6L6s and 2 EL34s, and the total output power will be 150 watts. So let's step on the switch, hear what that sounds like. Now, of course, the tone gets quite a bit louder here in the studio. We're balancing it for you here on the video. But what's happening is you're hearing a little bit more of that 6L6 character come through. So you have a little bit more open headroom on that, a little bit more round bottom end, and again, a little bit more sparkling top end as well. Yet we still have that EL34 filling in that mid-range and giving us that extra presence and chime. But the Triamp Mk3 still isn't finished. There are a lot more features to look at. Let's go back to our EL34 setting here. Play again for us. So that's our reference tone. Now we also have the stomp boost here. So when we turn that on, we're getting a front end boost out of the amplifier. So it's a nice, warm, round, clean boost that's pushing your guitar harder into those preamp tubes. Let's turn that off. Go ahead. And back on. Nice. So you can use that as a lead boost if you just need a little bit more push out of your amplifier when you're playing your guitar. And you can set that up so that the status of it is either saved as part of a preset, and when you recall a particular setting, that'll come on automatically for you. Or if you have the pedal in stomp box mode, you can simply step on the switch and turn the boost on and off. Continuing on, we also have an effects loop. That effects loop is switchable between -10 and +4 levels, so you can use it with stomp boxes or with rack gear. It has an adjustable level control on the back panel, and we can switch that on and off using a switch here on the front panel, or we can switch it on and off using a switch here on the foot pedal as well. The status for that can be saved as part of your preset, or you can turn it on and off manually whenever you like. The Triamp Mk3 also has a master insert, a preamp out and a power amp input that's after all these preamp channels, but before the master section, where you can insert compressors, reverbs, those kind of things that you don't necessarily want to have in the loop, that you want to have active all the time. A few other things we need to talk about with the Triamp Mk3. There's a Redbox cabinet emulator built into the back panel. Now there actually is a new version of the Redbox here. It's called the Redbox Ambience Emulated, and it sounds much more natural than the Redbox did. The Redbox sounds great, but this is even better. It really gives you a real sounding cabinet emulation direct into your PA system, direct into your recorder, into your audio interface if you're in the studio. It's a very versatile feature. There are two different cabinet settings, cabinet 1, cabinet 2, and there's also a low-cut filter that takes out rumble or too much boominess that might come with a direct feed like that. So I've got the Redbox Ambience Enhanced Emulator set up for cabinet 2, and it's also set with the low-cut filter. Let's have Don play a little bit. I'll switch among the different channels, and you can hear what that sounds like direct into our cameras. Okay. Using that Redbox Ambience Enhanced Cabinet Emulator is such an easy way to record. All you need to do is run an XLR cable out of the back of the amplifier into your recorder or into your PA system and you're ready to go. No microphones to mess with, just a great direct signal. The final feature I want to talk about with the Triamp Mk3 is the tube safety circuit. Now this is a feature that's sort of in the background until you need it, but it's really cool. What it does is continually monitor the status of the tubes, and it tells you when something's going wrong. If you've got overcurrent, if you've got a thermal problem, if something's going on with the tubes, lights come on the back panel and tell you exactly what the problem is. This is very cool. It makes it easy to troubleshoot the amplifier should anything ever go wrong with the tubes. And speaking of tubes, swapping out the tubes is very simple in this amplifier. You just open up this panel on the top of the amplifier, take out the tubes you don't want, put in new tubes. You can even do it while the amplifier is powered up. Best of all, it automatically rebiases itself. It's almost like there's a technician that lives right inside the amplifier who tweaks the circuit right there, and you can instantly be using those new tubes without having to make any settings yourself. Of course, when you've got a great amplifier, you want to listen to it through a great speaker cabinet as well. Today we've been using the brand new TC Triamp Cab 412, which is this cabinet right here. This is loaded with 4 of Hughes Kettner's rock driver speakers. It really sounds great. It has tons of bottom end, yet it has all that projection and nice sparkle on the top end as well. It's a very versatile 4x12 cabinet. The amplifier does come with a foot switch. That's not an option. It's included when you buy the amp, and you can use that foot switch in 2 different modes. I've been using it in preset mode where you step on a switch and basically the amp reconfigures itself automatically based on the preset that you saved. Saving presets is very simple. Just hit the MIDI learn and hit the button that you want to save it to, and you're done. The other mode is stomp box mode, and when you're in that mode, by simply flipping this switch, you can just step among the channels very easily by hitting the foot switches. You can also turn the boost on and off in this mode. The foot pedal does send MIDI messages, so you can use it to control other gear, or if you've got a different foot controller that you're using to MIDI control your effects and other devices, it can also address the amplifier, call up different presets, and change channels for you. I hope you've enjoyed this tour of the Hughes Kettner Triamp Mk3. It's an amazing amplifier, so many different tonal variations available with this. You can dial in exactly the sound that you want. If you have questions on this amplifier or need more information, give your Sweetwater sales engineer a call or visit sweetwater.com.